Hey there, guys. That one guy here, and I just wanted to do a quick, quote unquote, rundown of all the changes in patch 6.9, which is just reams upon reams upon reams of information. I tried to do this while doing like a live game commentary, but it's actually impossible to go through this much bullshit while commentating live. So, in case you don't know, 6.9 is the big mid-season shakeup with changes to AP Champs, AP Items, Dragon, Baron, Rift Herald, Tower Gold, Tower Base Armor, Magic Resist, Tower Damage in the Ramp Up, Tower Gold, Pink Wards, Death Timers, more and more and more. So I just want to cover the broad strokes. I've left out minor things such as, costs changing by 100 or things that won't affect the meta I've left out, but anything that is a serious big change or sorry about my chair, by the way, or important, I've made sure to include in the background. I've just got some filler gameplay. I really don't know how long this is going to go on. This is a 45-minute 3v3. It's the longest shit in the world. But anyway, on to what we were talking about. So we're going to talk about champions first. All the champions. There have been several champions that got big reworks. Cassiopeia, probably the biggest rework there is. She has a completely new passive. It's called Serpentine Grace. It gives her 4 movement speed every single level, and it makes her where she cannot buy boots. So that's a total of 72 movement speed at level 18, which is more than swiftness. So she's very fast, but she also can't buy sword shoes for penetration. Her W now shoots like a crescent of clouds kind of in front of her. It's like an arc as opposed to just one big pool now, and it has a new CC effect that it applies called Grounded, which means somebody can use any of their movement abilities, which is similar to Poppy's wall. You know how it blocks some Vi charges and whatnot. Her E scales its damage off of a level. It starts at 52 base, and it also gains 4 level, which is a total of 124 base damage plus AP scaling at level 18. The other reworks, Bran get reworked as well. His passive has been reworked where now it has a stacking mechanic. Instead of just having one flat 8% damage burn off of every spell, it stacks up to 3 times, 2% each for a total of 6% damage burn. But after it reaches 3 stacks and you sit there for 2 seconds, it explodes for 12% of max HP to all targets in an area around. But it also prevents you from applying passive back to them for 4 seconds. The ult now also slows targets affected by the passive, and the damage on the ultimate is down. Malzahar, that's another one of the big ones I wanted to talk about. He gets a huge little bit rework. Okay. He gets a new passive where he gets 90% damage reduction and CC immunity if he hasn't taken any damage for the last 24 seconds at level 1, which scales all the way down to 6 seconds at level 18. It lasts for 1 second after he takes damage or after he blocks any CC ability. Minion damage also doesn't trigger this effect at all. His new W is called Void Swarm, which allows him to summon Voidlings at will. Whenever it attacks a champion, a monster, or assists in a kill, he spawns a new Voidling with the same remaining duration. This is not just like a one-time thing. He continues to spawn Voidlings. Whenever he has 3 or more, they all gain 50% additional attack speed. Space Aid's mana cost is down, stamina is down, its AP ratio is down, but it now restores 2% of max mana over its duration, and landing a Q or your ultimate on a target affected by your Space Aid will actually refresh it. Ult, now that he's got a new W and his W's gone, his ult is also changed to where it's basically just a combination of some of the ability or some of the effects of his ultimate and some of the effects of his old W. It opens the same little void zone underneath them, and it suppresses them, just like his ultimate, but it no longer does flat damage, instead just does the damage from his pool, which is 6% max HP every second for 5 seconds. So a total of 30% HP plus 1.5% AP every second. What's the other big work? Big reworks. I'm trying to think. Were there any more big reworks? Zyra. Zyra was a pretty big rework. Her passive now spawns seeds periodically around Zyra, and the speed at which they spawn increases with her level, and they last 45 seconds each, and it always spawns 2 in separate locations from each other, and they will not spawn this way if she's in a bush. Plant life and HP now scales with level, and all plants will take 2 basic attacks to kill, and the damage is increased. Q reworked, it now fires in a long rectangle, and it's similar to Rumble's ult, but it's across as opposed to long ways. and it does less damage and costs 60 mana at all ranks. Her W doesn't give any more CDR, but it increases plant maximum HP by 10 to 50% at rank 1 through 5, and it still spawns Siege, which lasts 60 seconds versus the 45 seconds of the passive. These seeds give vision, her W seeds still give vision, while her passive seeds don't. And her ult, instead of increasing the attack speed of her plants by 50%, actually increases the damage of all her plants by 150%. Okay, so that's all the giant reworks. Moving on to the smaller ones. Fiddle passive. Fiddle passive is completely changed now. Makes it where when he stands still or channels abilities like his Drainer's ult, it gives him Dread. And Dread grants him 25 to 40 movement speed. 25 to 40% movement speed and lasts for 1.5 seconds. After he moves, that is. He can stand there and it'll stay there until he moves, and then he has it for 1.5 seconds, it's gone. Drain's cooldown starts at the end of the channel, not on cast, but the cooldown's lowered to 3 to 4 seconds at the end of the channel, depending on what rank it is. And his ult also now pings the little on my way ping, just like Penthanons does. Swain got some minor changes. His Q is no longer a target ability, actually places a zone on the ground. His ult now does 5 ravens instead of 3, and has a 5-second cooldown at all ranks. I'd call it a buff for sure. Getting 5 ravens instead of 3, and at the cost of only a 2-second extra cooldown, and 10% less healing for minions. It's down to 15% from 25, but that's all I admit. He kind of needed that. Cinder gets a few changes as well. Her passive is different as well. That gives abilities different effects at max ranks. Her Q no longer does increased damage. It gets an increased lifetime, and her W now grabs 3 things instead of 1. The effects of her E and R are unchanged. The extra range on the ult and the extra width on the E are the same. Veigar got a pretty big change as well. I kind of missed this one, I'm sorry. I've got just reams of notes. Veigar changes. His passive now stacks his AP, so Q is no longer the main way you stack AP on Veigar. Hitting any enemy champion with any spell grants Veigar a stack of Phenomenal Evil, which is his passive, which grants him +1 AP. Takedowns grant 4 stacks. So a kill or assist grants 4. Hitting an enemy with an ability, an enemy champion that is, grants +1 AP. So Q will still give you your stacks on minions, or will give you bonus AP on minions, but only if you kill them with it. And it gives double stacks for big minions and large monsters as usual. It kind of makes Veigar more fun. You play him about the same, but you don't really have to choose between your Q being a harassment or being, a farm. You can use it to harass and get your AP, or use the farm and get your AP now, as well as it entices Vigor to do something other than lane Q spam under tower for 25 minutes. His ult got changed to where it no longer has enemy AP ratio and now does % missing health damage. And that's it on Veigar. Vel'Koz got a pretty good change as well. His passive now does more true damage. His ult doesn't apply as passive anymore. His Q can gives a 50% mana refund per unit killed. So if he were to CS 2 minions with his Q, he gets a full mana refund. What else? Oh yeah, you can't see the target indicator anymore on his Q unless you're Vel'Koz. So nobody else can see it except for him now. His ult doesn't actually stack as passive anymore, but if you use your ult with his new passive, whenever you trigger your passive, the 3 true damage stacks, you get your target becomes research for 7 seconds, and whenever you use your ult on a research target, it does true damage instead of magic damage. So basically, proc your passive, use your ult, and just kill anybody, because true damage is OP. Vlad's changes are pretty significant. He got a couple of reworks and just a lot of small things I think are going to add up to make him quite a different play style. Now, his HP converts to AP less, and AP converts to HP more. So you'd be building less health and more AP now. The one Vlad freaking main in the entire game is probably doing flips and shit. Every third cost of his Q speeds him up for 2.5 seconds. I couldn't find the percentage, I'm sorry. And his next Q deals double damage and heals for 5 plus percentage of his missing HP, which gets halved when used on minions. His E is reworked and now costs 10% of his maximum HP. The range is set to 600 and the cooldown's at 9 seconds. He can charge it. He hits E and it charges for 1 second and drains 10% of his HP in that 1 second. 10% of his maximum HP in that 1 second, and it increases the damage of the explosion by the same amount. And whenever you release it, or after 1.5 seconds, it explodes and it deals damage that scales off his AP and his HP. If he has full charge, Vlad gets slowed by charging it, but he also slows enemies hit by 40 to 60% at rank, and his ult now heals for 50% of the damage dealt after it's after it ends, and the duration is also down 1 second from 5 to 4. So, with the Vlad changes, Vlad should be hilariously fun. He's got a little small thing. Ult grants 3, 4, and 5 shots now at ranks 1, 2, and 3, and it used to only get 3, but the damage is down. Ziggs. I also, this is a little weird, all the research I did, I can't really find whether it's specific, but W now either damages or destroys. If it destroys towers at this much HP, God, Riot, why would you do this? But let's hope that it just damages them. W damages turrets below 25 to 35% HP depending on rank. We've already gone over Zyra, and there's just a few more. Illaoi. Okay, now Illaoi's getting a big change on our vessels. Instead of lasting for a minute and spawning one vessel every 10 seconds, vessels now last for 12 seconds. And they spawn until every 5 seconds, 4 seconds, or 3 seconds. You can't clear the debuff by killing the tentacles. They can spawn on the same surface if they're spawning from a vessel. They can spawn when you're recalling, and they can't be seen in the Fog of War anymore. So Illaoi's getting a pretty nasty ass kick up. No, I get. Kindred's getting just some balance rework. It doesn't really seem like a nerf or a wolf. Holy crap. It doesn't really seem like that much of a nerf or a buff either way. If I had to say, it's more on the buff side than nerf. W on Kindred now reduces Q's cooldown, rather than by 2 seconds at all ranks, by 4 seconds at rank 1, scaling down to 2 seconds at rank 5. W's duration is up by 0.5 seconds, so that's 1 extra wolf attack. You build stacks of your heal for your W passive on moving and attacking now instead of just moving, and wolf does 50% increased damage to monsters. So definitely, I'd have to say a buff. Although without the Q mobility, it's going to be a little bit different. But Kindred is going to be played very different in season, or after 6.9 drops anyway, because of the changes to the items. Terra got some small changes. His Bastion range is down. The cost has increased. His Dazzling Dick size got reduced from 650 by 150 to 610. So significantly shorter by 140 and just a little bit less wide. Alright, let's take it on over to the items part of this ridiculous set of notes. A lot of the items have changed, specifically a lot of the AP items, just like a lot of the AP champions. Abyssal Scepter has a new recipe. New recipe. Fiendish Codex, Negatron Cloak, Abyssal Tome. Holy goodness. I'm sorry, guys. It's like 3 in the morning, you know? I'm not so great at words. Fiendish Codex, Negatron Cloak, Amplifying Tome, and 695 gold, which ends up being 2750 in total, which is up 400 from 2350. The AP is down to 60, the MR is up to 60, and it gives 10% CDR and reduces the magic resistance nearby and reduces like 10 to 25 based on level. So, with the AP going down, the MR going up, CDR getting added onto it, this is going to be, instead of, you know, it's going to be much more of a lame, good old item. Archangel Staff. Base mana regen has been removed from a lot of the items, so if you hear me repeat that, I'm sorry. Awe is the new... Well, I mean, it's not exactly a new unique passive. They've used the name before, but it either restores between 15 and 25% missing or spent mana. That's the new one that they replaced pretty much all mana regen with in this season, or this patch. Archangel Staff gets the base mana regen removed, but gets Awe to refund 25% of the mana spent. Unholy Grailithines gets a new recipe of Fiendish Codex, Chalice, and 300 G, which is a total of 2100, which is down 600 gold from 2700. The AP's down to 40 from 60. Mana Regen's lowered to plus 75% down from 100%. Mana Fought doesn't exist anymore, and it now restores 30% max mana on a takedown, which is any kill or assist. The new unique passive on it, you get 20% of the damage you dealt to champions before mitigation as blood charges from 100 to 250 in max. Healing or shielding an ally consumes them to heal to the original effect amount. So, you gain 20% of the damage dealt to champions as blood charges. And then whenever you use those blood charges to heal, or whenever you shield or heal an ally with anything, it uses those blood charges to heal them by the same amount that you dealt to get those blood charges. You feel? So it's just it's a little passive, quick stacking heal. Banshee's Veil. Banshee's Veil is going to be pretty much the new go-to item up ahead of Spirit Visage for your magic resist needs. It's the new recipe Spectre's Cowl, Negatron Cloak, and 530 gold, which is down quite a bit. It's 350 gold down. The only difference in stats is that the HP gets lowered from 300 to 500. Or to 300 from 500, I'm sorry. Black Clover got a small change. Its cost is down by 400 gold, and the AD is down by 5. Catalyst of the Protector is removed and replaced with Catalyst of Aeons. Total cost is 100 less. The unique passive on the Catalyst of Aeons is 15% of the damage taken from champions is gained as mana, and spending mana restores 20% of the cost as health, up to 15 HP per spellcast, and toggled spells heal for a maximum of 15 per second. So, it makes it where you get mana from damage taken, and spending mana restores health. There's a lot of things like that. Chalice of Harmony gets the same passive as Athene's. The mana budget is removed, and the price is down to 900. They are taking Devourer out in 6.9, but they're replacing it with Blood Razor. Blood Razor is the jungle item or recruit bow, 625 gold for a total cost of 2625. But it gives 40% attack speed, and it does 3% in max HP and bonus physical damage on hit. So, with this being said, Devour is kind of shit for on-hit junglers anyway, like Kindred. And so, Kindred doesn't really care about Devour going away, especially now it's getting replaced by a Blood Razor that's better for her anyway. It lets her gank more, it gives her more damage to add to her passive, especially if you stack a Bork on top of it and you have 10 stacks, you know. And it makes it where she doesn't have to spend as much time in the jungle farming, which is good for her. Them, not her, I'm sorry. Makes it where they don't have to spend as much time in the jungle farming. Cinderhull gets nerfed. Sorry, I just lost where I was in my notes. Where am I? There it is. Cinderhull got, I don't know, it got reworked. It got nerfed at early levels and buffed at later ones. So, the base damage is down by over half. It used to be 15, now it's 7. The scaling damage is up, though, to 2 per level from 0.6. Or from 0.06, I'm sorry. So the total at level 18 is up to 43 from 29, but it does less damage at earlier levels. On GA, the cost is down by 300 gold, and the magic resist is down by 15. Not that special. Rageblade. This is a pretty good one. Ginsu's Rageblade is being reworked to be less of a stopgap item and more of a proper item. The new weapon, or the new recipe is going to be a blasting wand, a pickaxe, and a recurve bow, and 875 gold. So 3,600 in total. 35 AD, 50 AP, 50 additional damage on hit, and then the stacks are 6 times 8 attack speed, 3 AD, 4 AP. Melee champions no longer get double stacks, so they'll have to stack up to 6 times each. Xin Zhao and Yi are about to get it put up their butts, which is excellent, and champions that are ranged will favor the Rageblade now, which I prefer. It has the same... Ginsu's Rage is no longer a splash AoE range attack. It's now the same passive as the old Devourer, that double on hit effects on every other attack. The rework to it makes it where you're not going to feel this huge lack in power that you feel now whenever you're building the Rageblade, whenever you're trying to play like a Rageblade Tristana, a Rageblade Varus, or Rageblade Ashe, to where whenever you buy your pickaxe and come back to lane, you're okay, you're a little bit behind because they probably got a BF. But whenever you buy your blasting wand and come back to lane, you're like years behind because they bought a BF and a pickaxe, and you're sitting on a blasting wand. So you just have this huge lack in power, and then you go back and you finally finish your Ginsu's, and you come back with this giant spike in power. Smoothing the build path out makes it where both of those will be more towards a normalized area where you have less of a weakness before you actually complete the item and less of a power spike after you actually complete it. Let's go over one of the new items, a couple of the new items. We'll go over it real quick. There's 2 new items. Is there? There's only 2, right? No, 3. Let me see. 3 new items. That's it? Yep, 3 new items. So we'll go over them real quick. First one is the Hextech GLP 800. The recipe is the Catalyst of Aeons, the Hextech Revolver, and 750 gold, which is 3,000 in total. 300 HP, 400 mana, 80 AP. Spending mana restores up to 25% of the cost as HP, up to 25 per cast, so an extra 10 on top of the last one. Active effect is called Frostbolt, which fires a spray of ice bolts that explode and deal 100 to 200 plus 35% of your AP as magic damage to all enemies hit and slow them by 60%, which decays over half a second. And it's on a 40-second cooldown, which is shared by all the Hextech items. So that's the Hextech Gunblade, the Hextech GLP 800, the Hextech Protobelt 01, and the Hextech Revolver. All 4 of those now share a 20-second or a 40-second cooldown on all of their effects. Gunblade has a new active effect since Spellvamp is no longer in the game. It's called Lightning Bolt, which means on hit, once every 40 seconds, you get 250 plus 30% of your extra AP. as an extra damage as well as a slow. Hextech Proto Belt 01, which is another new item. You can build it from a Hextech Revolver, Kindle Gem, and 700 gold, which is 2,500 gold total. It gives 300 HP, 60 AP, 10% CDR, and it does the fire bolts. You dash forward and you unleash fireballs, which deal 75 to 150 plus 35% of your AP and magic damage. Each extra after the first is reduced by 20% damage, and it gives it has a 40-second shared cooldown, just like all the other Hextech items. This is kind of a big one because it gives immobile mages like Annie, Vel'Koz, etc. a dash. Essentially gives them an escape or an enter into a fight rather than just having to flash. So this is kind of a big one. I think that'll shake up the meta quite a lot, the Hextech Proto Belt. Let's cover up the last new item, Lost Chapter. You get it from an Amplifying Tome, Sapphire Crystal, 115G. It's 25 AP, 300 mana, and it restores 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds on leveling. So a really basic, cheap, early laning item that builds into other things. Hextech Revolver. The price is down to 1050 from 1200, and the new passive on it is Magic Bolts. Oh, I'm sorry. The new item on the Gunblade, you have to use Lightning Bolt 250 plus 30% AP damage and a slow, which is 40-second cooldown shared. The Hextech Revolver, on every basic attack once every 40 seconds, it's called Magic Bolt. He does 75 to 150 bonus magic damage on just on one basic attack every 40 seconds. Holy god, man, 22 minutes, and I'm still not through the items. Jungle items. They're now giving, they're now giving more experience to junglers, so now it's 50 per big monster, and if they're above your level, you get 25 extra experience per level they are above you. The Mercurial Scimitar got a huge nerf, and that's kind of scary for anybody who likes to play ADC. It now only removes CC based debuffs, not all debuffs. So stuff like Dots, Ignite, Zed ult, none of this gets removed by Mercurial Scimitar or Quicksilver Sash anymore. So that's going to put ADCs in even a worse spot against all these assassins, and they're already in a terrible one. It seems like a questionable decision on Riot's part to take that away. But they also did lower the cost on GA, so you might see ADCs fall back into GA since the price is down. Relanomicon's pretty much completely changed. You build it out of a Codex, an Amplifying Tome, Lost Chapter, and 515 gold. It gives 100 AP, which is up from 80, 20% CDR, and 400 plus mana. And it applied Grievous Wounds to those under 35 HP, which is down from 40% HP. Takedowns restore 20% of maximum mana, and Grievous Wounds now properly reduces all healing again as opposed to just self-healing. So thank the Lord God that they finally decided to put that back in after God knows how long of Soraka butt-raping everybody. Manamoon and Muramasa both no longer have mana regen. Manamoon no longer grants mana charges passively, and both of them refund 15% of the mana spent. They're all passive. Rolla got a pretty big nerf. The price is down by 500. It only gives 300 mana now. It's just down from 400. It gives 60 AP down from 80, and it gives 10 mana for Sag down from 40. And it has the same passive as takedowns, restore 20% of maximum mana. Seraph's Embrace no longer gives base mana regen, but restores all 25% of mana spent. Pretty simple. Spectre's Cowl. Price is up by 200. The HP is up by 50, and the MR is down by 5. That's just a balance change. I don't even know why I included that one. Spirit Visage gets not necessarily a nerf, but a rework, a refocus almost. The MR is down by 15. The base HP regen is increased to 200% from 150, and the healing effects are increased now by 25%, which is up from 20. So it's not used necessarily so much anymore as the go-to magic defense item, but more of a situational item, whether you need HP and magic resist and the healing. Because your magic resist getting nerfed on that makes it where Banshee's Veil also is now way cheaper and is going to be just a better item in general to get for magic resist. And Vlad and Singe are really, really going to like the new Spirit Visage. It's really good for them. They're really good for any kind of a tanky caster, HP-based caster. Tyr removed mana regen, and it no longer grants passive mana charges, but it now refunds 15% of the mana spent. Warmong's Armor gets a new recipe, which is a giant spell to Kindle Gem, Crystalline Bracer, and 400G. Gives 800 HP instead of 850, and it now gives 10% CDR. Will of the Anxious has been removed from the game completely. Zani's Hourglass is getting a pretty, I'd say definitely a serious nerf. now builds out of a Seeker's Armguard, a Fiendish Codex, and 900 gold, which is cheaper. It gives 70 AP down from 100. It gives 10% CDR now, and the stasis cooldown is increased by 2 minutes up from 90 seconds. So you get a 30-second longer use on your CD, get less AP, but you do get CDR now. If I had to guess, they're going to take maybe 10 to 20 more AP off of it with the CDR, because people are still going to build it offensively. I think their main goal is to get people to not build it so offensively, but 70 AP and 10 CDR is almost 100 AP. The stasis cooldown is really the biggest nerf to the whole thing. Pink Wards. Oh, that's all of our items. Okay. Now we'll move on into the gameplay changes. Goodness. God, we're 25 minutes and it's still going. Pink Wards. They now have 4 HP instead of 5, and they regen HP out of combat. Death timers are going down between 20 and 30 minutes, so games will be less, ended at... It'll still be a mid-game game, but less. Baron buff duration is up, and the Grievous Wounds, again, does the healing to everybody. Rift Herald only spawns once in 6.9, and it spawns in 6 minutes. It's got higher stats. It's basically a new little mini Baron. It also has a new buff called Glimpse of the Void, which lasts for 20 minutes and persists through deaths. Lasts for 20 minutes and persists through death, and it makes it while you're alone. You get damage reduction against champions, and your attacks with corruption charges. That 100 stacks, it discharges all the stacks and does bonus magic damage, which is basically a static shiv in the form of a Baron. But it also works on towers and means everything, just like the static shiv doesn't work on towers, but it does work on enemies. You get more damage and more charges more quickly. Like, that scales with your level. Sorry, I skipped a line. I have just reams of notes, which I'm going to copy and paste in the freaking description. Sorry. So you basically have a static shiv in the form of a buff now, and the damage and the rate of the acquiring of the charges gets increased to your level. Blue and red buff. Blue buff now grants 15% AP increase, double mana regen, and duration is down to 90 seconds from 2 minutes. Same with red buff, duration down from 90 seconds. Or 90 seconds from 2 minutes. Red buff applies damage immediately now, and then burns as well, but the damage is lowered to compensate for that, getting an extra tick in. Now it doesn't. It does the same amount of damage, but now it ticks immediately, and like in one extra time at the end as well. So you get the same amount of damage, but over more ticks and quicker. So that's good. It's a good buff. I was always not liking that it didn't really have any immediate effect with the red buff. I mean, it's good, but not that good. The HP regen now works faster for the red buff out of combat, but you don't see any of it in combat. Okay. One of the big changes here is buff timers. Any timed camp in the jungle now shows both teams the timer 60 seconds before it respawns. So that's Dragon, Baron, Blue Buff, Red Buff on both teams. It always will do this, even if you didn't see it. If you did see it, you'll get a precise timer. If you didn't see it, then you'll see the timer start at 60 seconds before they respawn. Turrets were changed quite a bit this time. Or quite a bit in 6.9. Inner and outer turrets are getting their damage up quicker, and they sustain their damage with switching targets, so level fucking 4 and 5 tower dives are going to be much, much less good now. In fact, they're almost going to be suicidal. It only needs 4 shots to ramp up to maximum damage. Global gold has been reduced on outer turrets to 100, and the local has been increased to 300, so from 125 and 220 respectively. Inner turret rewards are reduced 150, or reduced to 150 globally from 250, and reduced to 125 locally from 175. Inner turrets don't give any more XP. Inhibitor turrets give 50 local gold, whereas they used to give 0. And turrets now have 40 base armor and magic resist up from 0. 3,300 HP, which is down from 4,000, and they're subject to magic and armor penetration. We are almost done, folks. Just a few more things. And by a few more things, I mean everybody's favorite part of this new nonsense. Let's everybody fix shit that's not broken. The new elemental dragons. Each one of these gives a buff. There's fire, water, earth, and air. Each one you have to fight differently and does different attacks, and each one gives a different buff. After 35 minutes, it switches over from any of the 4 elemental dragons to the Elder Dragon. And the Elder Dragon is the only one that will spawn for the rest of the game, and he is just your mini Baron after you kill the Rift Herald mob, and after 35 minutes has passed. The fire buff is that you get plus 8 to 24% AP and AD, which depends on stacks. Whenever I scale, whenever there's a scale with these buffs, it depends on how many stacks you can get. You get up to 3 stacks for any of the buffs. Except for the Elder Dragon buff, which is just a single one that lasts for, I believe 30 seconds, but I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. So the fire buff is 8 to 24% AP and AD, which increases to 50% if you get the Elder Dragon buff. Water causes you to restore 10% of your HP and mana on attack once every 8, 12, or 6 seconds. 18, 12, or 6 seconds, which increases to 15% if you have the Elder Dragon buff. Earth causes you to do 10 to 30% bonus true damage to every monsters and towers, which increases to 50% with the Elder Dragon buff. And Air gives you an additional 15 to 45 out of combat movement speed, which increases to 50 with the Elder Dragon buff. Regardless of the additional buffs, Elder Dragon buff always deals 45 plus 45 a stack. So if you've killed the Elder Dragon once, it's 45. The second time, it's 90. The third time, it's 135, etc. True damage over 3 seconds to any non-tower entity. So, I think that's just about all of the broad strokes for patch 3.9. Appreciate you guys watching. If you ever wanted to check out my stream, it's twitch.tv/slotwagon. It's an awesome name, you'll never forget. I hope to see you there. I will be putting the notes for this in my description, so if you want to read the abridged version. Pardon me. I held it in so I wouldn't have to cut, but damn it hurt. So if you'd like the abridged version, quote unquote abridged version, it's really more like a novel, it will be in the description. Otherwise, I look forward to 6.9, and I look forward to seeing y'all there, and I hope y'all know, have a better idea of it now. Thank you guys for watching so much. You have a wonderful night, day, whatever the hell it is. It's YouTube. It could be any time.